now. Chuck Norris is right behind you.
I heard superheroes read Chuck Norris comics.
I heard at night the boogeyman checks under the bed for Chuck.
I heard Chuck Norris's reflection won't even look him in the eye.
I heard when cops need cops, they call Chuck Norris.
I heard when Chuck gets in the water, sharks get out of the ocean.
I heard when Chuck Norris is hiking, grizzlies look out for him.
I heard Chuck Norris rides the motor without the cycle.
I heard Chuck Norris wears a hat to protect the sun.
I heard medicine takes Chuck Norris to feel better.
I heard what actually killed the dinosaurs was Chuck Norris.
I heard cats say they have Chuck-like reflexes. I think he's still got it.
I'll bet you $1 he catches a salt shaker.
You're on.
Hey, Chuck!
You owe me $1.
Don't look now. Chuck Norris is right
Good
behind you.
evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Steve of Sensus Fidelium coming at you with Clown Planet Friday night edition, 10:06 p.m., running slightly behind schedule. 10:06 p.m. on Friday, March 20th, 2026. Happy Saint Photini Day. If you don't know who that is, if you ever read the Gospels, come on, you know who it is. The Samaritan woman at the well. Most people don't. I heard a couple of these sermons long ago, and Father had a great line in it going, have you ever wondered who these people are? When you hear these stories, what they happened to them. So that's one of them. It's, whatever happened to the lady at the well. And what happened is she went back, converted the entire neighborhood, actually got in Nero's grill. Well, probably not that close. Told Nero off as a tyrant he is, and Nero pretty much killed her and her entire family. They're martyrs for the church. Today is their feast day in the Roman Martyrology. If you have the Roman Martyrology in your possession, look it up for today, March 20th, and you will see Photini or Photina or Photini as the Samaritan woman at the well. There's a lot of guys, that trash on women for things, and they're not supposed to go evangelize, and they're not supposed to do this. She was the first, and one priest says she was the greatest evangelizer in the church at the time, because she got the entire city, town, whatever, to come to the faith. And again, then she was martyred for it. Not for that exactly, but her and her entire family was martyred. So yeah, happy Saint Photini Day. Always wonder, who are those? What happened to the people that I'm reading about in Scripture? What happened to Simon? What happened to the lady that wiped our Lord's face? She became Veronica. Story of her. She ends up going back, builds a statue for our Lord. After she gets cured, the blood issues, that's it. Who was the lady with the blood issue? That was Veronica. Comes back, blood, gets builds a statue for our Lord. Comes back, and then she's got the greatest relic in the church. It's called the Veronica. It's funny how tradition is so great. And what else? Yes, Protestants are going to go, where's that in the Bible? Well, I'm wearing a white shirt. That's a true statement, not found in the Bible. Anyways, let's get right to it. Yes, I start out with Chuck Norris because Chuck Norris, rest in peace, Resurrection Apache, died today at age 86 after a medical emergency. American actor and martial artist died Thursday morning in Hawaii after being rushed to the hospital with a medical emergency. In a statement shared on his Instagram page, the announcement this afternoon read is, with heavy hearts that our family shares the sudden passing of our beloved Chuck Norris. Now, it wasn't like, I don't know his background, faith-wise or anything like that. Comes shortly after the black belt in karate, taekwondo, tang soo do, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and judo celebrated his birthday. He was in a ton of movies. You've known him from Texas Walker, was it Texas Ranger, Texas Walker, Texas Ranger, something like that. I don't remember. Is that his latest photo? Star posted tree, but I haven't seen an image of him since like that. Really, the dodgeball, when he was when he made a cameo appearance of dodgeball that gave the average Joes the win. That was pretty much the last time I saw his image, if you remember that. Chuck Norris dies 86 after mysterious medical emergency. I put this one in because of the mysterious part, because I think he did take the jibbity jab. I'm pretty sure most of these guys did. He also is a big Israeli guy too, so I don't know how big, if he's a full-blown Zionist, but I mean, like I said, it's not like he was. I didn't know he even got divorced in '89. There's the post on. He's got 2 daughters. Chuck Norris is 26. Anyways, on the other, this is kind of funny. Chuck Norris doesn't die. Chuck gets Chuck Norris. So somebody made a martyrdom of mass propers for him. Infesto Sancti, DA 20 Marti, Chuck Norris, second class. That is fantastic. Somebody's going to get mad about that, but I thought it was fun. On the other spectrum, this guy died, Paul Ehrlich. He died this week. Farewell to the long-lived failed prophet of miserableism, as Mark Morano of ClimateDepot.com. If you don't know Climate Depot, they talk about, they call out the Algorianism, in a sense, any of the global warming nonsense. That's Climate Depot and Mark Morano. And here's a little bit. If you don't know who Paul is, he was a nut job that wanted to get rid of people and was a climate guy.
Now, given the population explosion, let alone in this country, what ought the government to do about this?
Well, what it ought to do is this. The first thing you don't want to put, I'm against government interference in our lives. You want to minimize that. So the very first thing the government should do is try and take the pressure off to reproduce. There's a lot of pressure in our society now to reproduce. If you're single, people try and push you into getting married. You know, your wife, you have a bachelor over and your wife says, gee, shouldn't I have a nice girl over? The idea is, nobody should escape. So there's pressure to get married. Young couples, if they don't have children, people say, gee, they must be sterile. They never say, gee, maybe they like good wine and going to the theater and so on. They prefer that to scraping diapers. So there's pressure to have children. So the first thing that should happen is that the president ought to say, from here on out, no intelligent, patriotic American family ought to have more than 2 children, preferably 1, if you're starting a family now. Not any law, but just say this is what responsible people do. He ought to make the FCC see to it that large families are always treated in a negative light on television wherever they appear. There ought to be a tremendous amount of television time devoted to spot commercials, the sort we've had against smoking. But ones in the middle, say in the middle of Beverly Hillbillies, you get a scene which shows Los Angeles in the smog, and it just says this city has a fatal disease. It's called overpopulation. And so long. Now, that sort of campaign, you could have a sample census, which would see whether that was having the desired effect. If that didn't, you could move to giving women bonuses for not having babies. That almost certainly would do the job. If that didn't have the effect, then you could move to changing the tax structure so that people who had the money and had the children paid for the children. In other words, you would increase taxes on people with children rather than decrease them, since when they have the children, they require more services. If that doesn't work, then you'll have the government legislating the size of the family. And people say, oh, that's impossible. Government can never intrude and tell you how many children to have. Well, I got news. It intruded a long time ago and told you how many wives you can have. And there's not the slightest question that if we don't get the population under control with voluntary means, that in the not too distant future, the government will simply tell you how many children you can have and throw you in jail if you have too many.
Let that sink in just for a little bit for you. And plus, because my mouse is not really wanting to cooperate with moving. It's amazing to me how matter of fact people like this guy. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, this guy was off his rocker. But anyway, he died earlier this week, I think it was. Morano on Newsmax TV talking the incredibly wrong and anti-human legacy of Paul Ehrlich. So I'll go ahead and play. Why not? Give me some Paul. Give me some Mark Morano against Paul any day.
All right, so
that's my message. We won't do
Morano, former senior staff for the U.S. Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, also from Climate Depot. He's also a well-known author and a subject expert on all this. Mark, great to have you.
You're right,
here.
Amy.
Thank you, John. Happy to be here.
All right. Well, it's sad when somebody dies, I'm sure, for his family, but we got to talk about the legacy of Paul Ehrlich. We wouldn't have Greta Thunberg. We wouldn't have Al Gore spewing off about climate change if it weren't for Paul Ehrlich.
Are you sure? Should we speak ill of the dead? Because that sounds like what you're asking me to do.
Not of him personally, particularly, but on his policies and what he spoke of.
Yes. This Paul Ehrlich, who died at age 93, first of all, the irony is this was a doomsayer who led a very wealthy, happy, productive life, complete opposite of everything he predicted for the rest of humanity. And he lived to a ripe old age of almost 94 years old. He was a few months shy of his 94th birthday. He is the godfather of this entire environmental fear-based movement. He and Rachel Carson, who did the other book, worried about pesticides, but it was really Paul Ehrlich's book, which captured the public imagination. To give you an idea what I mean by that is, I think he was on Johnny Carson, The Tonight Show, over 70 times. I mean, throughout the entire 1970s into the 1980s. He was a rock star celebrity in the age before Al Gore came along. You know, at any point, he was the number one environmental extremist. He was fated like a rock star wherever he went. Even to this day, to the day he died, he was winning awards despite being as wrong as possible. The central premise of his entire career was that humanity was going to use up all the resources on planet Earth. Our population was going to become unsustainable, and there would be a mass die-off of people. He predicted by the 1980s that there would be billions of us dead because the planet couldn't support us. He completely rejected human technology, human ingenuity, human resourcefulness. And to impose essentially an anti-human agenda on us. Everything from forced sterilization agents in water, he proposed both in Africa, the United States. He's been called by his contemporaries worse than Hitler for some of his views, going at very racist views in many cases, going after poor countries with these policies of they can't develop. And because of all of this, 60 Minutes faded him. I mean, he's just been praised universally, and he is the single face of the entire movement that you would say is environmental scare. Overpopulation, of course, replaced by climate change.
And there's a common theme in the climate movement that regardless of how wrong you are and how often you are wrong, you are still put up on a pedestal.
Yes, in fact, a couple things. I keep saying John, but Paul Ehrlich has said he wished he had taken more math classes in college. That would have helped him. He later admitted he wishes he hadn't been so specific, because he was the original tipping point guy, right? He's the one that said by 1980, England will be blue steam. By 1985, there'll be this great billions dead and die-offs. We're going to have resource scarcity. And none of that happened, but it didn't matter. He would just come up, erase, once the deadline passed, give up a new deadline. And this is what we find, whether it's Prince Charles, now King Charles, he once gave a 100-month climate tipping point. And he counted it down. We have 62 months. We have 89 months. We have, another 40. When he hit zero, he then erased all of his previous predictions and said, we have till 2047. And then the Earth is going to be, we're facing that climate tipping point. It's the same thing over and over again. But Paul Ehrlich was able to survive this many years, since 1968, as a celebrity by being so wrong. It didn't matter that he was actually wrong. What mattered is that he had the right message. And the right message was he was trying to sell the public on a collectivism, the idea of just mass turning, sort of the Anthony Fauci with real power back then, turning the world, and particularly America, to turn over as much of our freedoms and autonomy to these experts who were then going to manage us for our own good.
Right.
His greatest fear, by the way, in the 70s was we'd have too much energy too soon, and that would make us, act crazy. He actually said nuclear power was dangerous because it'd be like giving a toddler a machine gun. Because what would we do with all that energy? We would destroy the planet. We would have too many people. We would all die.
Yeah.
It was just
none of it came true.
None of it was even based in reality.
Yeah, and now we have, and the only reason why something like that works, and you and I talked about this right before you came on the set, is fear. It was all driven by fear, not facts.
Yes, in fact, he was the OG, if you will, the godfather, who taught everyone that you can't impose sort of a Marxist, let's just say it climate communism, which is what they try to do, or environmental communism on an unwilling public, unless they have the fear. There's no way they would ever accept these solutions. We have had proposals.
Anyway, goes on for a little bit longer, obviously. 9 minutes long. I played a little 4 or 5 minutes of it. Gave you a little extra. He wasn't exactly a good dude. And if you really want more, here is The Corbett Report, James Corbett on episode 399. Meet Paul Ehrlich, pseudoscience charlatan. That he did back in 2018. It's about 40 minutes long? 41 minutes long. You remember me talking about the Nile lizard? I only had a photo of it. Here's audio. Here's not audio. Here's a video from local news of what this thing looks like.
Already with iguanas here in South Florida. Wait until you hear about the latest invasive lizard that has the potential to cause even bigger issues.
Oh yeah, local 10 animal advocate J.C. Birch introduces us to this non-native Nile monitor.
They are olive green or black with yellow striping on their head and jaw. They can grow to be 7 feet long and weigh 20 pounds. They have razor-sharp claws and a long split tongue. Also, a lengthy muscular tail. And chances are you have never seen one in real life. But Nile monitors are spreading across South Florida.
We got a lot we're up against between the pythons, iguanas, Nile monitors, the invasive fish, invasive plants.
God, dog, it's too strong.
We introduced you to Mike Kimmel a few years back.
It's a big crowded female, y'all.
When he was catching breeding Burmese pythons and using his hunting dogs to sniff out nests full of snake eggs. The man known as the Python Cowboy
Let's get over here.
has now added Nile monitors to his hunting list.
Using traps and catching them with the dogs, I've interacted with them alive before. And they are, I call them like, it's catching a tornado.
He calls the elusive lizards contortionists that can whip and spin and even bite to avoid human hands. And boy, do they have successful survival skills.
No, it's a monitor, boy.
Swim, burrow, they climb trees. They're like modern day velociraptors.
Unlike herbivore iguanas, these big guys are carnivores and they feast on our native wildlife. How nervous are you about the future propagation of these monitors?
I'm definitely nervous. What makes me the most nervous is how we have multiple separate populations and they're growing.
We contacted the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, who currently monitors.
We'll move on. It's like I said, you've seen a little bit of it. Everything we got is in the show notes, obviously. If you want to watch more of the monitor, go look it up. I got plenty of links to go. Here's just weeks into the war, and the U.S. national debt surpassed $39 trillion for the first time ever. It was only in October that the U.S. surpassed $38 trillion, meaning under Trump, the debt increased by $1 trillion in just 5 months. There was $1 trillion was added in just like 5 months. Debt added by every president from Bush to Trump term 2. So HW, 1.3 trillion. Clinton term 1, 1.1. Clinton term 2, just 0.4 trillion. Hey, you got savvy. Bushy Jr., 1.9 trillion first term, 3 trillion a second. Obama, 5.8 trillion, and then only 3.5 trillion. He held back the second term. Trumpy term 1, 7.8 trillion. He said, hold my beer. Then Biden said, hold my ice cream, 8.5 trillion. And in Trump 2.0, in 5 months, 2.8 trillion. He's going to smash that thing out of the water. Let's do some federalism news. West by God, Virginia House advances bill to fund abortion pill reversal. The legislation has already passed in the state Senate with an overwhelming 31-1 majority. Pro-life groups urge court to block Delaware's assisted suicide law. The Third Court of Appeals must step in and protect the rights of disabled individuals who could be targeted for assisted suicide. Alliance Defending Freedom and other pro-life groups say, again, I'm not for it, but if Delaware wants to do something horrific like this, it's up to the people of Delaware to fix that. You don't want big daddy government to come in here and swoop in and do anything. Here is BuzzFeed, a noticeable decline. Teachers are sharing that everyday things students can't do for themselves anymore. They can't read, they can't write or spell, and they do not care. I teach 3K. These are 3 to 4-year-olds, and most of our kids cannot put on a jacket at all. They won't even try. They start throwing tantrums before even attempting, saying they can't do it. It's too hard. The majority of students struggle to read a clock unless it's digital. I know adults that have a struggle with that right now. Kids know they will pass no matter how unqualified, ill-equipped, or unprepared they are. They come to school with the attitude of, I won't do the work, and you can't make me. Sorry to say, we can't. That's why I quit teaching. Call me a coward. I blame it on no child left without education. Obviously blames on Pat Bush. I remember being in master's. I tried master's program for 1 year, and that was one of the PE, master's of PE, and I dropped out. And one of the classes for education, we had to, my group had to do no child left without education. I've been shocked by the number of second and third graders who can't tie their shoes. I also have fourth graders who can't write their first and last names. Granted, I spend most of my time with kids who are failing more than one class, but it's really scary to think that a kid can get into fourth grade without anyone raising an alarm about their inability to write a full name. Shoe-wise, kind of don't care. They make no lace shoes now for adults. I've actually it was about 4 years. I don't think I tied a shoe. Well, take it back. I did. I would wake up. I would go to the gym, but when I was doing Uber, I used slip-ons just to get in and out. Sometimes I take my shoe off when I was driving just to give it a break. Let's see. I've been teaching high school English for only 7 years now, and in post-Rona lockdown education landscape is rough. Students are using AI to think for them, write for them, summarize any readings for them that are more than a paragraph. We've put technology in every classroom, but kids don't understand how to use it. They need to be constantly reminded how to capitalize their names. The letter I, any pronoun really, or I's, any pronoun, any proper pronoun really. It's not the problem with the kids. I think teachers are burnt out, rightfully so in some cases. But I don't think we can write off the entire generation of students. I just retired after spending decades teaching an intro course at a university. The reason? Cheating is the norm and accepted. Critical thinking is out the door, and the use of Chat GPT is the only way students answer questions or write something on assigned topics. Retired middle school teacher here was given my class a time multiplication assignment in which they had to multiply approximately 31-digit multiplication problems, like the nines tables, within a certain amount of time. I was told by an administrator that I was wasting valuable school time because this was nothing more than factoids they could get online. Caught a kid cheating on the math test and gave him a 0. Parents complained, of course. Administration backed the parents, of course, and they said I had to give the student a second test because the student told everyone that I never taught him the things on the test. Of course, I said no and told the administrator that if he wanted to retest the student, he'd have to do it himself. He did. The kid still failed. Asked me again why I retired early. Kids can't tie their shoes anymore, not even the fifth graders. More and more, we're seeing kids lacking basic skills. The teachers having to teach a class of 25 plus kids at all different levels. There's no way to do that well. And the kids just move on to the next grade, even though they're far from it. Again, homeschooling. I taught 7th and 9th grade ELA for 15 years with a focus on writing and grammar. I retired last year because the battle was bigger than me. Kids refused to even think for themselves, and parents expected me to give grades for AI work. As 8th graders, they couldn't determine whether or not they had written a complete sentence because they didn't understand sentence parts and they didn't know parts of speech. I guess what bothered me most is that they have no desire to learn and they had no shame for being unlearned. It took 30 minutes the other day for 3rd through 5th grade students to think of 3 subjects they would like to learn about, and some didn't finish. Very difficult for them to look up a subject in the library catalog and choose a book on that subject. 5 years ago, it would have taken 10 minutes for them to find something in the catalog. They can't read, write, or spell and don't care. I teach high school to a number of kids who cannot get through a day without some sort of chemical stimulants is unhinged. The number of kids who take sleep aids, then turn around and down 2 or 5 monsters during school hours. They have that in school. I don't remember anybody allowing anybody to have a drink in school. And then follow it up with weed or something worse is out of control. It's so easy to get high these days. They're doing it in droves. For those of my generation who got high in high school, this is totally different, and there are no repercussions. I I teach high school history and experience many of the things written in these posts. Students can't think for themselves and expect answers to be given them. Even when I put the answers in bold and repeat them, I get the response, so what's the answer? They complain of their hands being too tired after writing a couple of sentences, and they don't know what a complete sentence is, and they forget any sort of grammar, capitalization, or punctuation. Addiction to screens is very real. I am truly scared for these students to enter the workforce and what society will become. If you ever seen the movie Idiocracy, that's what's coming. I teach second grade. I could go on forever, but the saddest one, in my opinion, is the lack of imaginative play. Many kids either sit and stare at toys, not knowing what to do with them, or reenact memes, viral videos. They're so accustomed to having a phone or iPad to play on, they forgot what real creative play can be. My kids don't have that problem at all. These kids have no creativity and are scared to try hard and to fail. Maybe it's less about being scared and more about being apathetic. They can't read time, and they can't use rulers, and they can't even articulate their own thoughts. Ask a kid to evaluate their own work, and they have to use AI. Good grief. I've been teaching since 2017, and the decline of students' ability to comprehend, analyze, and create is very sharp. They use the digital resource and constant entertainment that they can no longer think for themselves. There is no responsibility or accountability. It sounds like a Fox or CNN listener too. They can't think for themselves either. In my district, teachers are not allowed to give any student a grade lower than 50%. If a student puts their name on their paper and that's all, they automatically get 50%. What? I had a pre-K student who didn't know how to turn on a faucet. She would just stand there until someone. I can see that because you got the automatic thing. What is this? Remember Back to the Future? Oh, it's a baby's gun. They're trying to figure out the video game. Oh, this is a classic. Pop, 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 pop. And they didn't know how they could use their hands. I teach a fun elective at a high school, 9th to 12th grade. My students have no problem solving skills whatsoever. I will hand out a paper assignment and help a kid for 10 minutes just to turn around and find a student just sitting there doing nothing. When I ask them why they aren't working, they blankly stare at me and say they don't have a pencil. I keep a couple of pencils at the front, which I pay for myself. I am a high school science teacher, and I have seen a surge of students who can't write well or read very well at a grade level. Post-COVID, we are getting many more students with individualized education plans and with lots of accommodations, which requires a ton more work to modify assignments specific to each student without much help because of staffing shortages. We are told to get the kids up to reading level while having to cover the same curriculum and skills as always and get them to pass the end of course standardization tests. It's no wonder teachers are starting to turn a blind eye to all the AI cheating. We just can't keep up with the demands. It all starts feeling like a very fantastic. I taught world history in North Kakalaki. That's 9th graders. I would write one essay, and it would take us a week, sometimes two. I would usually get not even half turned in the final year. I taught the 24-25 school year, 2024-2025. A majority of the essays were just AI generated. My admin wouldn't let me put a 0 on or write them for plagiarism. Well, it would be plagiarism. It'd just be somebody else doing it. They cannot write a paragraph, solve simple math problems, or summarize. Studying or taking notes, I teach middle school science, is a skill they've never mastered. Behavior regulating emotions, waiting your turn, looking up answers, being a problem solver, non-existent. I'm a math teacher and student in my Algebra 2 class, which is the college prep class. Use calculators to do things like dividing 30 by 2. Sometimes I get so discouraged when I witness these things, I just have to walk away and take a deep breath. Maybe you should have taken a big drink. I'm thinking, I got a bag in a bag. Mrs. Smith, what's that for? Your kids are awful. You're paying for all this. Yes, that's why they should never have any taxes going to any of the schools. And Catholic schools aren't even better. I mean, just they're pretty much paid public schools. Public schools you pay for. Yes, many cannot think for themselves and lack imagination. The worst part is a sense of entitlement that they feel despite having contributed very little. That's like that even when they get older too. Kindergarten teacher here. Many kids come to kindergarten having never used crayons or pencils. So they cannot write, and they won't try to color, trace, draw, or write. Forget kids, that's because they probably get thrown into the parents don't care. They throw them into some daycare and that's it. Forget kids not knowing how to write. Forget kids not knowing how to do rudimentary research. Forget the phones. One of the biggest things I see is the students lack basic empathy and decency. Everything is a joke and nothing is taken seriously. It's all about being self-centered as possible for clicks and followers, I guess. I can see that too. I teach high school, and what drives me bonkers is that if I want them to go to a website with a basic URL, they don't understand how to type it in the web address bar. They go straight to Google search and then click on the wrong thing. A third of them will type it in wrong and get an error, but can't recognize why they're getting the error. Oh, this is great. I mean, a bad way. I'm a 6th grade math teacher. Many of my students are at least 2 or 5 grades behind. None of them knows the multiplication factors. They have no motivation to do any work. Many of them don't want the answer. They don't really care how they got it. According to the most recent diagnostic test, almost all my students don't know their shapes or how to sort objects from largest to smallest. It's overwhelming to teach, to say the least. Problem solving schools, all this. I'm just looking for fun stuff now. I used to counsel middle school teachers, and most couldn't tell the difference between a nickel and a quarter, how much they were worth. Have you seen anybody at a grocery store? Have you seen anybody at a McDonald's? That ain't just middle school kids. That's grown adults don't know that. I've had 5 students who don't even know their own birthday. They don't care because they would just ask their parents if there's something they need to know. What? I'm a high school teacher, and not only can the students not address the envelopes correctly, but they also can't even fold the paper correctly to fit in the envelope. Some can't use a paper clip. It's shocking. I know a 10-year-old who can't tie his shoes. School-age 10-year-old. School-age kids cannot tell time on an analog clock at all. High schools get their papers from chat. None of them say please or thank you. They don't respect others. They melt down over the tiniest things. The only things they talk about are meaningless viral things they see online. They get bored very easily. They don't listen to or obey rules. Mm-hmm. I'll leave it at the bottom. My own 13-year-old niece has vocalized such deep observations as buildings are big, fire is warm. It's mind-blowing, all of it. The internet has completely destroyed an entire generation. It's generally scary. A few weeks of school, a lot of kindergartners don't even know their own names, and it's baffling to ask a kid if they are this person and have to stare at you blankly for 5 minutes. Also, teens can't drive. Most of them drive around without a license. Okay, I understand that's going to be terrible. Is this more of it? I work at 8th grade. They say either check. You will be in a classroom and someone's asking how someone got an answer, and they say ChatGPT or Sora AI took over. I work in elementary school. There's a large number of kindergartens or 1st graders who are not potty trained. They constantly have accidents, show no sense of embarrassment when they do. Even a sheet of loose leaf paper, they don't know how to write the lines. And he teaches middle school. I'm a college professor and the treasurer of the Professional State Riot Organization. At a recent competition, we asked the winners, high school through grad school age, to self-addressed envelopes so we could send them their prize. Very, very few of them actually knew how to address an envelope. You'd be shocked to know how many 10th graders cannot write a paragraph. Students do everything on computers, so physically writing is practically extinct. Even on laptops, students can't form a proper introduction, give evidence, cause, or reason, properly close out a paragraph. They cry about writing more than one sentence. Traditional. I grew up in an era of flip phones and T9 texting. Back in those days, my phone felt like a magical connection to my friends, not the whole internet. Yeah, I understand that. And I didn't get that till 20? Did I have a cell phone in college? Didn't have one in junior college. Maybe closer when I graduated, maybe. Back in those days, I had inside jokes. Yeah, no, I'd even have one in Aiken. Because one time we had this party. I was known as the one that put the parties together. I would throw bashes. We knew we got the stuff from the base, the military base in Augusta, Georgia, and you wanted to have a throwdown. I was the one to put it all together. I had some epic things that came out. Anyway, so people tried to do what I was doing at different levels. So one time there was this, to show you that we didn't even have cell phones. There was this gigantic party in the woods, and cops show up, and everyone's leaving. With my buddy, one of our my roommate was a teammate of mine. We were like the last. We were just throwing people in the cars, getting people out of there just to keep those guys from not getting in trouble. And we were like, all right, we'll just get the last ride. Well, we threw everybody in the truck. We threw everyone in cars and things like that. And by the time the last one ran, we both looked at each other and going, we should have gotten that last ride. We're in the middle of nowhere and everyone's left. In the middle of the woods. We couldn't call because we didn't have a cell phone. We didn't have anything with it. We just walked it until we got some. I don't even know somebody ended up coming back or something. I just remember all of us looking, going, me and him looking, going, all right, well, I guess we're walking that way. Now you get an Uber to pick you up. Anyway, you see it. We'll really see a couple more. 5th and 6th graders aren't able to do cursive writing or spell small words correctly. Basic small words. That's interesting. Lack of resilience. Anyway, let's get rolling. I got a lot more to go. Federal judge rules against displaying 10 commandments in Arkansas school. Arkansas Governor Sarah, my dad's a big Zionist Huckabee Sanders, has vowed to appeal the ruling and defend the state's Christian values, citing the importance of the 10 commandments for Western law and morality. Federal judge. You know what the Huckabee Sanders should do? Go pound sand. We're doing it. State right. 10th Amendment. That's the federal judge has zero authority on this case right now. And that's what, if we start writing these stories like that, going in and going, yeah, okay, they forbid, U.S. Supreme Court forbid 10th Amendments in public schools in the 1980s. That was an illegal, unjust, should have been nullified opinion. Done. No, we're not obeying that. You have no right. U.S. Supreme Court has no right to do that because that's a violation of the 10th Amendment. Conclusion, 2005's Van Orden and Perry, which ruled 10 commandments could be displayed on public property because blah, blah, blah. Again, stop worrying about what SCOTUS or the federal government says. Do it yourself. The phrase separation of church and state, frequently invoked in opposition to religious content on public grounds, is not an official legal clause anywhere in the Declaration or U.S. Constitution, but comes from a letter, which today would be like an email, that Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptists on January 1st, 1802, reassuring the group of his belief that religion is a matter of lies solely between man and his God, that he owes account to no one of his faith, worship, blah, 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 blah. Contemplating the sovereign reverence, no law shall respect an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. Which in context means what the federal government cannot do to the states. The state the Danbury Baptists were in had an official state religion. There's no separation of church and state in that sense. In these United States, it's actually a separation of the federal government to what the church and the state of whatever state you're in can do. Any state can become a confessional Catholic state tomorrow if they wanted to. It had nothing to do with the federal government. People got to get that centralization cancer out of their heads. That's what Jefferson did. This said separate church and state. Again, Connecticut, they had their own state religion. If you read the whole thing, he said, I get it. I just can't do anything about it because I don't have any power to do it. There's a separation of the federal government from the state and from the church. Again, you want a confessional Catholic state? Work on it on your state level. Do it tomorrow. 1861, the state of Georgia declared itself a Christian nation. Done. It's historically fact. That happened. Where's the separation of church and state at? Nowhere. And they didn't go all the way, hey, let's get the Supreme Court on it. No. We're so historically ignorant of all this stuff. When taken literally, separation of church and state is accurate shorthand for one of the practical effects of the First Amendment, which has nothing to do with the states. Recognizing the churches and the states are two distinct entities, and neither may control the other's the affairs of other. Wrong. 1A means what Congress cannot do to the state. Read the darn line. Congress shall not. I don't know. Let's go back to the high school stuff. The kids that can't read anymore. We're the same way. Congress shall not. Where the heck did that say anything else about it? Congress shall not? That means Congress shall not. Everything about the states, hence the 10th Amendment. Why have a 10th, 9th, and 10th Amendment when you have Congress shall not? That's why they're there. And then the states have their own constitution. And if you figure you get out of the matrix on this, and you look at everyone else going, and you're like, how come everybody can't see this? It literally says that's if you don't look at it, why this state's constitution? No one can ever answer me on this. If that's the case, why have state constitutions? That's kind of either redundant or just waste of ink. Again, it means religious values cannot be enforced. Yeah, Arkansas, if they wanted to display the Ten Commandments, nobody on planet Earth that can say no to them, including the District of Criminals. I mean, D.C. They have 0.0 authority to say anything about that. I'll tell you how you're wrong. If you think they do, I'll tell you how they're wrong. 1A, unless you have to embrace incorporation then, the 14th Amendment. And if you embrace the 14th Amendment, then you have to embrace the 14th Amendment Constitution, which is a progressive mindset. What is another name for progressive? Communism. You want to be you don't want to be a communist. Get out. You can't be a conservative and embrace incorporation. Well, Muslim schools, we Southerners are backwards like that. We can still get away with it. You can get away with some Southern states. That our instructor told us we need Jesus. Yeah, you can get away with that down here. But yes, if anybody tells you 1A is the same thing with 2A. 2A has nothing to do with what the states can do. What 2A means Congress shall not. Again, it's what the federal government cannot do to the individual states. Case closed, done. California Governor Newsom blows $114 million on a bridge to help butterflies cross a road. And it's still not finished. I think here's an image of the butterfly bridge. Scotland shocks the world with an unexpected defeat of euthanasia. Scotland would have been the first part of UK to legalize assisted suicide, but lawmakers rejected it in a surprising 69-57 vote on Tuesday after years of debate. It's amazing that you even have to vote for this. Would you vote for this stuff? Hey, let's vote to kill everybody. All right, let's go. And Johnson. Yay or nay? Bishop Bonnie has declared he aims to ordain married men to the priesthood by 2028. Per Miriam is on the announcement, which rejected Latin Rite tradition and teaching. Vocal bishop. I don't know any vocal bishop. An outspoken Belgian bishop has declared he will start ordaining men as priests no later in 2028, thus attempting to force the Holy See's hand to approve the measure, which is widely prohibited for clergy in the Land Rite. I mean, I know some married Land Rite priests. I mean, Father Longnecker but he came from the English ordinate. He's got kids, married and kids. Most of the Byzantine priests are all married. I mean, I'm not saying, hey, that's going to fix things. I'm just saying, I mean, the question is no longer whether the church can ordain married men as priests, but when it will do so and who will it do. Bonnie repeated oft-used arguments for activists who have been calling for married clergy in recent years, chief among them, which is the drastically low number of vocations. And speaking of the Eastern ones, they have low number of vocations, and most of those guys are married. So that's not gonna fix anything. You look at the Byzantine guys, they get married, but they're also low in vocations. Trust me, ask any of them. They'll tell you there's a priest shortage, especially in the South. Up north, there's a laity shortage. They have the buildings, they have priests, they just don't have the people. But yeah, there is a vocations crisis in the Eastern Catholic churches too, and so ordaining married ones is not going to change that. Damning study of over 1 million kids finds myocarditis only in the vaccinated. Good night, everybody. Mark, you take over. You know, that's something that we all said. Let's see, it's 2026, 2021. That would get you kicked off YouTube for saying that. Now it's in the open. It's kind of like "Told You So" Tuesday. I've told you so. Postmaster General David Steiner is asking Congress to allow him to borrow more money to cover costs, as well as to increase the price of a U.S. first postage stamp from 78 cents to $50. 95 cents. Postmaster General, UPS will run out of money in 12 months. And if you ever watch how I have a Sensus Fidelium press, okay? So, and I can see the tracking. You'll see these things going all over the place. You get some mail from here to here. This package will go to Australia, back to England, come back around, and then finally make its destination. They can't deliver the mail right, but you want them to run your lives. Video presentation of the evidence as Father Robert Provost Leo XIV participated in pagan Pachamama worship ritual at eco-theology. This is from Novus Ordo Watch. You know those Sedevacantist guys. Conference in Brazil in 1990. Everyone and their brothers talking about this. I don't even, when did he even get ordained a priest? 1, 2, shorter video than that is. To me, this whole story, it doesn't, like I said last time, I'm giving it too much time now. Everyone, their brothers talking about this. Just ask Leo what he thinks about it now. Did he go to confession in the last 30 years about this? I have no idea. Probably did. Who knows? Maybe he did. Maybe he did. We have the Great Reset happening in real time right now. And we're worried about, how do you even find this? It looks like he's sitting there. I don't know if he's still, he's definitely not doing his head down to the ground like those other guys are doing. I don't know. And, really? Call me. Maybe should I even? I don't even know if I care about this story. If you didn't have internet, you would never know this story even happened. But you know about the Great Reset happening. You have no story because your gas is going up. But it's funny. All the Catholic guys are hyper focused on this. I don't know why. You get them out of the papacy. That's not going to happen. I don't know. What's the point of that story? And I'm not saying, hey, idol worship is good. Not saying that at all. We've had other popes that done stupid things like that before they became popes. Bartolo Longo was a satanic priest. He's now blessing the church. There's been popes, I think that Saint Cyprian was he a satanic priest in a sense? I got a couple. What was that sermon? Him and I can't remember her name. Over the sign of the cross, the demon came out, and he converted from her because of her. And 30 years ago, I have no idea. And there ain't nobody on there that knows exactly what happened either. There ain't nobody, because if you do though, then you were there. And were you participating in it? I have no idea. And for the Sedevacantist doing, like, what are you doing? You don't even think he's a pope. You don't even think he's a priest anyway. Why do you care? But it's got to get the clicks. New law prohibits face coverings for law enforcement in Washington state. Hey, federalism, baby. Let's get back to stuff I care about. Here's dude tried to use an AI lawyer without permission from the judge.
Not a real.
May it please the court. I come here today a humble pro se before a panel of 5 distinguished justices.
Is this, hold on. Is that counsel for the case?
I generated that.
I'm sorry?
I generated that. That is not a real person.
Okay. It would have been nice to know that when you made your application. You did not tell me that, sir. I received the application. And you have appeared before this court and been able to testify verbally in the past. You have gone to my clerk's office and held verbal conversations with our staff for over 30 minutes. Okay? I don't appreciate being misled. So either you are suffering from an ailment that prevents you from being able to articulate, or you don't. You are not going to use this courtroom as a launch for your business, sir. So if you are able to shut that off.
Oh, again, this is why I do clown. No one's going to find something like that and use it. 2016, Never Trumpers. 2026, the MAGA crowd. I know I'm having way too much fun with some of this stuff like this. Here's something now, little disturbing. Little disturbing. Very, very disturbing.
Let's say I'm a wealthy American, which I'm Canadian. Let's say I'm a wealthy Canadian, okay? Or a super elite, Chinese super elite, and I'm in urgent need of a transplant, and I have not a lot of moral boundaries to my thinking. Well, I can go to China. I can pay, if I'm outside, I can pay 100 or 200 grand, and that there were actually ads prior to 2006 online that would say 2 weeks, 200 grand, new heart, that kind of thing. It went underground after we started reporting on it. Because my donor, right, there doesn't need to be a catastrophic accident. My donor is already in a database pre-matched and ready to be killed to order. The moment I pay that money and I go, that person is just shipped and they kill them so I can live, right? And that's happening today to our best estimates to the tune of 60 to 90,000 transplants per year annually, okay? And it's a machine they built between 2000 and 2005 was the biggest growth spurt. They had been doing this at a very low level, okay? Say, we don't know how many transplants, but we know we have actually a surgeon that's come forth and admitted to doing it before this massive scale growth of hospitals.
Ain't that something? Oh, can't get to stop talking now. New home buyers are paying a record entry fee to own a home. It's not secret that housing is expensive, but what's less apparent is the widening financial gap between existing homeowners and those looking to gain a foothold in the market. You will own nothing and be happy. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. housing market has fractured into two, mirroring the broader K-shaped economy. On the one side, the new buyers paying a record premium to enter the market. On the other is existing homeowners whose housing costs as a share of income are at near record lows. Ashka Gupta goes, let me explain why every new subdivision in America looks like the top photo, because the math is wild. Here's the photo. A mature tree increases the home's value by 7 to 19%. On a $400,000 home, that's $28,000 to $76,000. A single shade tree produces the cooling equivalent to 10 room-size air conditioners running 20 hours a day. One tree on the west side of the house cuts energy bills by 12% within 15 years. The bottom photo is worth more, costs less to live in, and sells faster. This has been documented by the University of Washington, Clemson, Michigan State, and the USDA. The data is not in dispute. Removing those trees saves the builder roughly $5,000 per lot. Concrete trucks need twice the dripping radius of every standing tree. Utility trenches need flat ground. A bulldozer flattens 200 lots in an afternoon. Preserving trees adds weeks and thousands per home. So the developer pockets $5,000 in savings, and the buyer eats $50,000 in lost value for the next 2 decades. The person making the decision and the person paying for it have never been in the same room. The Woodlands, Texas, is a proof of what's happening when they are. George Mitchell bought 28,000 acres of Houston timberland in 1974 and preserved 28% as permanent green space. He forced McDonald's to build behind the tree canopy. That McDonald's became one of the highest volume locations in Texas. The first office building designed to reflect the surrounding forest so you couldn't see it from the street, leased completely. The Woodlands median home price today is $615,000. Katy, a comparable suburb, a Houston suburb, that clear cut, $375,000. Named #1 community to live in America 2 years running. 50 years of data, the trees are worth more than removing them saves. Developers clear out anyways because they sell the house once and leave. You live in it for 30 years. 100%. Because you see all these pop-ups right there. They just look like this. Just nothing, but it's the sun just beats down on you. But here, imagine walking in the shade. Beautiful trees. This reminded me of Charleston a little bit. Abbeville's like that too. The trees on the main streets where the old homes are like this. It's very rare to see a tree like that anymore because people cut it down. They're afraid that they're going to, crush their house in a storm or power lines, things like that. Yeah, we're our own worst enemy and things like that. Then we poison foods that help save cancer. Rental markets deflation is spreading across these United States. Austin is down 22% from peak. Fort Myers down 19%. Denver 13% down. Atlanta, the ATL down 11%. Nashville's down 11%. Dallas down 11%. Home sellers now exceed buyers by over 600,000, making the widest gap on earth per Redfin. Boom, boom, boom. That's going to be a bubble. And we are watching it with eyes wide open. As Creed says, eyes wide open, but arms wide open, really. Yeah, but yeah, arms wide open. Now, sorry, I changed the song because eventually got to stop renting. And man, what that means is prices will go down. America started her home evolution, 1970s, 1990s. Yeah, remember people used to get in a double wide for 1990s, 1910s, get a trailer, 2030s. I need a machete too, just because I got it would help with the banana tree. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum announces that she will begin fuel shipments to Cuba despite threats from once and future King President DJT. Here's the Hill TSA. We're getting in the Great Reset Airport section of the program. TSA official airport security problem going to get worse before it gets better. As he says, small airports could close, which is exactly what we've been showing you. I've been showing you and sent you guys the link for Absolute Zero. If you don't know it, look back on Wednesday. You'll see the Absolute Zero podcast PDF. Click it, keep it on there, give it to your friends for. Treeless neighborhoods are an abomination. Yes, they just run down the trees. I got in the back now. I just planted my second. Good news, I planted 2 pawpaws and 2 figs. The bad news, it's going to take a while for them to grow the fruit. But yeah, I think I might have to go find an apple tree Monday. The nursery down the street is like $30 for a 8-foot tall tree. But yeah, we used to plant my boyhood home growing up. We would get real Christmas trees. So you had the roots and we would plant them outside the house. It took them a while to get over it, but eventually they grew taller so that it shaded the house. But yeah, it takes a while for a tree to get that big. Breaking, says Nick Sorter, on pretty much everything. Even the bathroom shut down. He'll say breaking. A whopping 400 TSA agents have now resigned due to Democrats, because it's got to be team party politics. Democrats withhold their paychecks. Agents have been seen leaving airports with boxes of donations to get by. Democrats keep cashing their paychecks while screwing over TSA agents making $50,000. Disgusting. Now we're 4 TSA guys. I thought I could have sworn, you go back far enough, I guarantee you're going to find Nick trashing the TSA. And here's my thought. TSA should be eliminated. DHS should be eliminated. Most of everything that has an alphabet soup in DC should be eliminated. They're all unconstitutional, illegal. The lines at the ATL airport are not to be believed. Imagine showing up 3 or 4 hours early and still missing your flight. You know what they're going to make it so that eventually you just don't want to fly anymore. TSA at LaGuardia International Airport in New York City. Yeah, New York City, stretching into hours-long waits due to the DHS shutdown. Palantir to adopt Palantir's Maven AI as core U.S. military system as Deputy Secretary of Defense Steve Feinberg, says Deputy Secretary of Defense Steve Feinberg. Hey, yeah, I can't wait. The Pentagram is to adopt Palantir's Maven AI. Trump Palantir contracts, ICE 30 million, DOD Maven 795 million, Navy in the Navy 1 billion, Army AI systems 178 million, Army 10-year deal up to 10 billion. I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are capable. Theo's thoughts on democracy. Is this what the stuff is? I'll play the Kushner. I think we played it the other day. I'll just, while I have it. Yep, it will hit 100. It'll be $200. We'll get to that soon.
8 or 9 system, Maven Smart System. Palantir's software as a service product that we are deploying across the entire department. As you can see, it's not just one data feed, it's multiple. And instead of having 8 or 9 systems for those decision makers to look at every single day, in order for them to make decisions, you then fuse it into a single visualization tool. The single visualization tool allows you to select, deselect different types of data, look at different approaches to data, but more importantly, action from the same system that you're trying to develop your workflows around. Once you have a detection that you want to actually move into
Yeah, we've seen it. I think I played that on Monday. Now that I think about it, I was trying to think, what day did I do that on? Long-haul Easter flights at risk due to fuel rationing. Holidays and travel could be impacted starting next month as airlines may face jet fuel shortages from the closure of the strait. This is from the Times, UK. UK again. Remember that thing. Absolute Zero is based in UK. They close all the airports but 3, according to that PDF, by the year 2030, which is 4 years away. Current TSA lines are going to look like child's play if another paycheck goes unpaid, Sean Daffy warns. Again, just all you have to do is just close down the TSA thing. Amazing that we were able to do this without TSA for long times. Let's see. We'll play Sean Duffy. Why not? We need some Duff Man. Get some of the Duff Man in here. The Duff Man. We had Afro Man. Why not the Duff Man?
Not highly paid. It's getting worse day by day. And we have to think about the TSA worker, but these are not highly paid individuals. They start off at about $45,000 to $55,000, but living in in DC and Atlanta and New York, they live in very expensive communities, so it's really challenging for them. And so I saw this with the FAA and our air traffic controllers. The TSA agents missed a partial payment. Last Friday, they missed a full payment. As we get into next week, Becky, and they're about to miss another payment, this is going to look like child's play, what's happening right now. You're going to see small airports, I believe, shut down. You're going to see extensive lines, and air travel is going to almost come to a grid halt, stop. It's getting worse.
Yeah, I hate it for them, but they picked the gig, and if you're going to be a TSA agent, John Ex Machina. A client's doorbell told me as I passed in front of it, "Hi, you're being recorded." It was strange. Yes, I would have said back, "Please, are you the T1000 or T100? Which model are you?" Yep, they're all recording. They're still recording. It's the only thing about the Ring camera and the divorce. It's not that they stopped recording. They're just not officially working together. They're probably still working together. They just not going to tell anybody now. That was the stupid thing that Ring did, was to tell everybody they're pretty much going to be a tracking thing. What were you thinking? Scientists turn mosquitoes into a vaccine tool to immunize bats against rabies. The insects are being designed to spread vaccines instead of disease. Where did we hear that from? Yep, back in 2021, we talked about mosquitoes doing this. Now they're using it for rabies. Yeah, they won't ever use it against us. Just trust the government. Here's Aaron Day. Klaus Schwab could not have written a better AI bill than the ones the GOP just dropped. The true blue. God bless the GOP. Vote Republican every time. Vote Democrat. What's going to happen when you vote for either party? We are screwed. That's what it is. T1000 is like, it did sound polite. It knew how to communicate with you. It knew how to get in. Knew the human genome in a sense. It knew how to play games. Yes. I was always jealous when in T2 that little John Connor had his own Terminator. For like, man, that'd be cool to have. The Trump America AI Act is 300 pages of centralized AI control disguised as innovation policy. One, preempts state AI laws, which is illegal. Your state can no longer protect you. One federal rulebook controlled by Washington replaces 50 state legislators overnight, which should be immediately nullified and said to be a violation of 10A. Creates a mandatory duty of care enforced by the FTC. Unelected bureaucrats now decide what AI can and cannot say. Number 3, requires frontier AI companies to report to the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and pass Department of Energy evaluations before deployment, government pensions, or permission to innovate. Number 4, mandates quarterly job displacement reports to the Department of Labor. They're not tracking losses to help you. They're building a workforce surveillance database. Number 5, sunsets Section 2030 into 2030. That was a Freudian slip. Section 230 in 2 years. Every platform becomes legally liable for user speech, the largest speech suppression mechanism ever passed by the Republican Congress. This is not deregulation. It's the Great Reset wearing a red hat. Man, I've said that many times. I should have put that as the thumbnail. The Great Reset, Trump America AI Act. Maybe that'll be next. Maybe I'll use that for next time. Here's from the Age. Warning to Australia: work from home, avoid air travel, and cut speed limits to guard against oil shock. Z Media official. P.S. This is the Great Reset in action. Aren't we? So, hey, let's worry about what happened 30 years ago in South America that no one even knows about. But hey, let's not talk about this. We are so doomed. Yes. This is what drives me bad. Is all this stuff going on, and all I see is Catholics posted is what happened 30 years ago in South America. Ain't nobody talking about this. Reporter, should Americans be prepared for oil to hit $200 a barrel? Secretary Chris Wright. Did you know Iran calls us the Great Satan? Hey, look, there's Elvis.
Call us the Great Satan. I don't.
Price of a barrel of oil closed above $103 on Friday, and the Iranians are warning of prices hitting $200 a barrel. Mr. Secretary, should Americans be bracing for, should they be worried that this war will actually drive the price of oil above $200 a barrel?
So Iran for 47 years has called the United States the Great Satan. So because they call us the Great Satan, I don't think we are the Great Satan. In fact, clearly we're not. So I don't listen much to Iranian projections of what's going to happen.
So that's a no?
There is disruptions of flow in a very important waterway. I would pay no attention to what Iran says, but there is a lot of energy that flows through the Straits of Hormuz. And depending upon the timing and the manner in which this conflict comes to an end, we're going to see some elevated pricing until we get there. Where it's going to go, we have done many, many actions to mitigate that price rise.
Wait, ladies and gentlemen, what you just heard is a moron. Pick one, either me or him, mostly him. When they say debt to America, they're talking about the government, the DC, the federal government. They're not talking about John, Mark, Amy. Who else is in David in the show, in the chat? Brick. I mean, they might be talking about Brick. You know who you are. If you're watching, they're not talking about you. They're talking about the guys that pushed the button and dropped the bombs on them. They're not talking about it. Yes, I'm getting my bike out. No, it's funny is my bike just got a flat tire in it. My kid's bike got a flat tire in it. So I need a new bike. So I need to get the bike fixed. But yes, that was just so bad. But that's what they do. The International Energy Agency recommends lockdowns. Yes, you heard that. Let me say that again. The International Energy Agency recommends lockdowns, easing the world to individual carbon credits as an exit ramp. You will own nothing and be happy. Here is that link. You want to check it out. So again, all this is in the show notes. New IEA report highlights options to ease oil prices pressures on consumers in response to the Middle East supply disruptions. Immediate actions to reduce demand. Number one, work from home when possible. Number two, reduce highway speeds by less than 10 kilometers an hour. 3, encourage public transport. 4, alternate private car access to roads in large cities on different days. Again, that's what Mexico City did. Increase car sharing and adopt efficient driving practices. Number 6, efficient driving for road commercial vehicles and delivery goods. Number 7, divert LPG use from transport. Number 8, avoid air travel where alternative options exist. Stop flying, you bums. Only the rich will fly. Where possible, switch to other modern cooking solutions. Encourage electric cooking and other modern options, like reduce reliance on LPG. Like maybe get a piece of wood out back, carve it in there, make a torch out of that, and cook it that way. Yeah, little serfs. Number 10, leverage flexibility with petrochemical feedstocks and implement short-term efficiency and maintenance measures. Dubai crude just hit $170 per barrel. Never happened before in history, not once. I'll play it because I just literally just said this one. Whatever happened to Joe Baby Joe? Yeah, you're seeing it.
There's going to be people of means who are going to travel. And then there's going to be people maybe who are lesser means who might actually be able to use an Oculus or a Magic Leap or some other kind of device to travel to the same place, but from their own couch. But in many ways, it's actually going to create even more distance between those two people that psychologically, and I think that we've experienced this through social media. In many ways, it's brought people closer in certain ways, but actually created this remarkable divide because it's even more visible, actually, the divide.
Yeah, I was at the I think it was exclusive. Saudi Arabia's oil officials say prices could soar past $180 a barrel if war-related disruptions persist until late April. I'd bet that. Potentially pushing consumers into habits that slash their oil use. I'd be shocked if it doesn't last till April. Trump and those guys, we won. 2 weeks ago, they're set. I got that. We'll get to that here in a minute. They're sending more troops over now. Wait a minute. If you won, why are you sending out more? They just spent the big. They're asking for $200 billion. That's like the other day. It's going to last a lot longer than 2 weeks to flatten our curve. Flatten up. You know what I mean? So it's going to go for a couple of months. Now I've seen reports saying going into September. Imagine if they're saying 180 if it goes into April. You ain't going anywhere this summer. Shoot, they might even not even let you use your air conditioner this summer. You got 5 50-foot trees to start planting around your house. Start planting them. In a letter to employees, United CEO Scott Kirby says the airline is prepping for oil to hit $170 a barrel and doesn't get back to $100 a barrel until the end of 2027. And not just the beginning of 2027, the end of 2027. United is shaving 3% off. United is shaving 3% of off-peak flights. Think red eyes, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday flying this spring and summer. Plan for fuel being higher and longer. Our plans assume oil goes to 175 barrel and doesn't get back to 100 until the end of 2027. Honestly, I think there's a good chance it won't be that bad. But as you read below, there isn't much downside for us to preparing for that outcome. We were better than any one during the Rona. Stay focused long term. Be smart and nimbly manage our schedule. In short term, that means tactically pruning flying that's temporary, unaffordable in the face of high oil prices. Let's see. Capitalize on competitive dynamics. I mean, he thinks it's going to be a big part of why United is hot on Delta's heels. Is that the airline predicted just how bad the pandemic would be and how to prepare for the bounce back better than just about anyone. There's the full letter. The possibility, however remote, of $175 oil is shocking. Higher fuel prices combined with airline cutting capacity and a real 1-2 punch that could continue to push fares higher. Almost like Event 201. It's like I'm going to have to see if they have something like this. Someone did one. There's got to be something that they war gamed this. Rolling blackouts coming. Don't give them ideas, John. But yeah, probably. EV demand surges across Asia as after energy shock sends consumers into panic mode. Zero Hedge tweeted out, and now we have 3 oil markets: Asia, Oman oil at 167, Brent at 113, and US WTI at 97. The oil market is fragmented. Oil is now trading at 150 BBLs in Asia, except for occasional sanctioned Iran tanker, where demand destruction has started. China and India, most pressure. Meanwhile, it is still $100 for the U.S. Yeah, there's still ships going through it in and out, but it's not all of them. NATO ready to blow up airfields to stop U.S. invasion of Greenland, says the New York Times. I'll play. It's always good to have the people. Let's have the people out on the streets. See what's what's going on. If I can get my mouse to hover over it real quick.
Or if this is high, 469 is definitely one of the highest I've seen it, and I've been here 27 years now, so that's something to say. That's crazy.
Describe what you're going through for me. Well, I just make sure that I focus to save enough money for the week to get to and from work instead of, or if I can, I'll walk to the store or take the light route if I can, if it's not hot, but it's going to be hot again. So yeah, so those are some choices that I do make.
Yeah, it's only supposed to be like 195. I think somebody texted me the devil was seen out in Arizona. It was so hot it said he went back. Like, I got to get back down there. Here is another guy from the streets.
Come out of. I'm really scratching my head because I voted Republican, and most of us in the fishing industry did. And we're not seeing the positives come out of it, why we voted that way.
And I would say, stop voting at the federal level. Focus on your state, local and state leaders, and that's where it's at. A lot of this could be fixed if we did that. Trump's national policy framework on AI calls for the implementation of digital ID for everyone under the guise of protecting children. Age assurance is digital ID. Adults must verify who they are, their age, in order to use platforms to prove they aren't minors. Again, the SAVE Act is this. This came out a couple weeks ago. There's the link to White House. There's the link right here in case you don't believe it. WhiteHouse.gov, National Policy Framework, Artificial Intelligence, March 2026. Congress should establish commercially reasonable policy protective age assurance requirements such as parental attestation for AI platforms and services likely to be accessed by minors. Again, you have to have your ID on file to be able to do that. Visual ID. Nobody implements and accelerates Klaus Schwab's vision like the Republicans. The 2024 election or selection, as I would say, was technocracy with resistance versus technocracy without resistance, without one. Yeah. Well, yeah, because in a sense, let's pretend they had 2 actual choices. You didn't. You had one. I say Kamala with Cackles was just a person, just to be in a body, just to pretend you had the illusion of a choice. But yeah, let's say that you did have 2 illusions. If Cackles was doing what's going on right now, would Nick Sorter was louder with Crowder? Would all these guys be cheerleading like they are bootlicking for like they do with Trump? No, they'd be calling it out left and right. You'd be upset about that one chick that always was like the Biden sycophant that was out there all the time posting. People got mad, was hating on JoJo. No, But now, since it's DJT doing, all those guys will be like that against Biden are now, woo, bringing on more, hashtag winning. That's what we got. Sal the Agorist, 2021, 2026. Geopolitics and Empire with the World Economic Forum. You will eat the bugs. Why? Because ABC came out with a higher grocery prices could soon hit supermarkets as the war with Iran continues. The higher prices are because of a surge in the cost of diesel fuel, which powers many of the vehicles transport products across the vast global supply chain. What soaring diesel costs amid war with Iran means for meat, vegetable, and fruit prices. Now, I personally can't do a thing about meat here, but I can grow veggies and fruits. Maybe you should learn how to start growing some veggies. Here's some what you produce these right now and get fruits out of them in the next few months. Gooseberries, strawberries, depending on your blueberries. You go to your store, the nursery, Lowe's. They got some blueberries. Are blossoming right now. Let's see, black raspberry, maybe. What else grows fast? Get some hardy kiwi. It might be next year for that. Get a peach tree at the nursery. You can get a peach tree and apple like that are already 6, 7, 8 feet tall for like $30. So you can get it with cost. That's nothing. You go to fast growing trees online or anything. That's $100 easily, $200 maybe. But you can go down and go help support your local guy and pick that up quick. Basil will grow, be ready to eat in a couple weeks. Carrots, I plant carrot because I want a never-ending supply and not have to put down more carrots. Onions, green onions, definitely quick. Chives, just can't kill them. And then find out stuff like lamb's quarter, mustard greens. If you live around water, I could do it. Watercress. I planted gooseberry seeds up and down the side of the house because they can do it in the shade. Look up McKinsey Farms for citrus that grows in -15, -10 degrees. He has that. Kumquats, things like that. Get pomegranate so that you can have pomegranates down the road. Obviously, goji berry. You don't need fertilizer with goji berry. Get some goji berries and plant them in your yard. It will automatically fertilize your yard if you have to put stuff in the ground. I have to put them in pots, so it's kind of defeats that purpose. So I'm waiting for that down the road. There are so many things. Lettuce. Amaranth. If you're in Arizona, you can grow amaranth right now. You'll have it up. It'll be 6 feet tall. You can eat the leaves. It has more protein than beef and a ton of vitamins and minerals in it. Also, you can get the jujube tree if you're in Arizona, California. It was getting hot down there. That thing will grow in anything. Herbs like borage, mullein helps with sinuses. Wild lettuce, like I said before, with pain and anxiety. Dandelion's easy. I mean, you can plant dandelion. Put the dandelion season. You'll have salads forever out of that thing. Every part of that thing's edible. Clover, those wherever you're at right now might have some purple dead nettle. I got some purple dead. Here, I'll show you what. I picked some up outside today. Here's what purple dead nettle looks like. If you can see that a little bit. I'm waiting. I'm going to put this in and make a tincture out of all these here in a little bit after we get done. It's good for the sinuses of today. It's also full of vitamin C and things like that. So you can pull those up and have a salad out of it. I mean, I'll show right here. See? Pick off a piece right there. Yeah. Fine. There. Then wash it. Bugs aren't on it. So hey. Just let you know you can eat it. If I die on the camera, you'll know that you can't eat it, but no, you can. Commission of Fine Arts, composed entirely of Trump appointments, will weigh whether to approve the commemorative U.S. gold coin featuring. I saw someone say that it was who was it? Nero, one of the emperors. Donald Trump to be released by the U.S. Mint. And you're not supposed to do that. By law, they're supposed to be dead by then. Egypt. I love Geo Empires. Empire keeps going with it. You own nothing, be happy. Egypt will begin curbing some electricity use, including by ordering shops and cafes to close earlier, as the North African energy importer grapples with soaring global fuel costs caused by the Iran war. Here's Scott Besant, because I say, so they blow it up on one day, on one hand, and then they buy for the other. U.S. considers releasing Iran oil to offset Hormuz shock. U.S. Treasury Secretary and Scott Soros, the right-hand man, Scott Besant, confirmed this morning that the U.S. may allow the sale of 140 million barrels of Iranian oil stranded on tankers to ease prices, with Brent hitting nearly hitting 120 this morning, and traffic through Hormuz severely restricted. The move targets oil in the water, crude already extracted and loaded onto tankers, but blocked by sanctions. Besant said the U.S. would effectively use Iranian barrels to stabilize markets for the next 10 to 14 days. Here's the math. U.S. would still need a solution for Hormuz after March. If all this works perfectly, the shortfall could be closed through the end of March, but only if stranded oil flows and Gulf export ramps as planned. So it's got to be perfect. Here's let's see, I'll play.
Very first time since the war started, Donald Trump is pointing the finger at Israel. After days of escalation, after strikes and counterstrikes on energy facilities and assets across the region, the president now says he wants it to stop.
Tell them don't do that.
Making the tincture.
And he won't do that. We didn't discuss. You know, we do. We're independent. We get along great. It's coordinated, but on occasion he'll do something, and if I don't like it, and so we're not doing that anymore.
Now, all of that comes after overnight Trump released this lengthy Truth Social post targeted at Israel. Quote, the United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did they have any idea that it was going to happen. No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars oil field. See, here's the problem. That story doesn't quite line up, though, with some of the other facts we're getting, because multiple reports now indicate that Israel's strike on the South Pars gas field was, in fact, coordinated with the United States. And that strike triggered everything that followed. Overnight, Iran responding with one of the largest waves of attacks so far. Ballistic missiles, drones, targeting U.S. and allied interests across the Gulf. Now, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is warning that the U.S.'s next round of strikes today could be the largest yet.
To date, we've struck over 7,000 targets across Iran and its military infrastructure. That is not incremental. That is overwhelming force applied with precision. And again, today will be the largest strike package yet, just like yesterday was. As I've said from day one, our capabilities continue to build, Iran's continue to degrade.
Well, in response to that, Iran is making it clear what they just did was a fraction of what they can do. The officials in Qatar, they are confirming about 17% of its export capacity is now offline following those Iranian counterstrikes against Qatar's largest natural gas refinery. The damage, though, is so severe that repairs, according to the government there, could take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. Today, gas prices are already spiking, up 30%, even 50% in some cases. Oil climbing toward $100 a barrel. But the real impact right now, that's in Europe, which is heavily dependent on Qatari oil after cutting off Russian supplies of LNG. China, Japan, India, South Korea, all reliant on that same natural gas flow. And when it comes to all of this, what do you think is going to happen? Well, potentially things like this. There are industrial shutdowns we're talking about, supply chains under pressure.
Let's see. Yeah, so I was making a tincture while you guys were while we were all watching that. It took 2 minutes to do. Breaking in the Breaking Convention, Shenbine announces mandatory digital payments at gas stations and toll booths this year. Purple doesn't know. Let's see what day is today. 3/20, yeah. 3/20, 26. And that is it. Now I just have to sit it down and let it cook. Well, not cook. Whoop. Well, there you go with the. If you want to know how to make it, that's what it is. I put the vodka in it, It's all in there. Crush that down as much as I can. Let it sit there for 4 to 6 weeks. And I'll stream it out in probably a month. Like I said, it's 6 weeks from now. And bada bing, there's medicine for sinuses. And whatever vitamin the vodka pulls or the alcohol pulls it out. Goodbye to cash for fueling up or passing tolls. 8 out of 10 cash transactions. End of anonymity, informality. 55% of employed Mexicans without protection. Are you ready for the government to know everything you spend and where you are? Yeah, digital ID and CBDCs. Silver lining amid the smoke. Iran war could spark renewables revolution. This crisis presents the opportunity to accelerate the transition of solar, wind, and nuclear power, just like the plan. It's all part of the plan. That's great reset right there. Thousands have swooned over this MAGA dream girl. She's made of AI. That girl? I don't even know what's going on. Cardinal Pizzabella rebuked Pete Hegseth for using Jesus and end times prophecy to justify the Iran war. You probably saw about all this. Pizzabella, using God's name to justify war is the gravest sin. Good on Cardinal Pizzabella for doing this. But yes, Hegseth is a nut job, and the only reason he's there is because he's pretty much there for marketing. He's a talking head from Fox, so he knows how to work the camera. That's it. Ain't nothing else. Western Wall rabbi denounces missile fire near Holy Jerusalem sites, prays for safety. I hope they blow the wall up. Did I say that out loud? Yeah. Saudi Arabia seeks a spike of $180 a barrel if energy shock persists past April. Prices at such a level could trigger a recession or consumer changes that crush demand. Trump, why didn't you tell U.S. allies about the war before attacking Iran? Trump, we wanted a surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Why didn't you tell me more? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? As Martin Armstrong, Pearl Harbor was actually a false flag. Yes, it was. The U.S. knew Pearl Harbor was coming. He even leaked to the press beforehand. FDR needed the attack. Congress had refused to authorize war. The Senate later investigated and buried it. Yep. The Pentagram is sending thousands of additional Marines to the Middle East on the war that we apparently won. Trump family, Netanyahu family, your son. Here's Secretary of War Pete Hegseth confirms Pentagram will ask Congress for $200 billion in additional funding for Iran operation. That number could move. It takes a lot of money to kill bad guys. So again, we already said this a couple of times ago, but as he says, wasn't it supposed to be a couple of weeks? Now it's $200 billion more. There's $200 billion more for war. Let's put this in perspective. During the Brandon entire term, total U.S. support for Ukraine was $184 billion, and people complained about that every time Brandon sent more money. Now look at just 20 days. 20 days ago, we were upset every time Brandon sent more money to Ukraine. They ain't seen those people say a word about this, and he spent more money. $100 billion already burned through munitions, operations, and assets. 20 plus MQ-9 Reapers lost. Multiple high-value missile tracking systems destroyed, worth $700 million to $100 billion each. Massive offensive and defensive deployment costs. All this against a $315 billion economy under heavy sanctions. So in less than a month, the U.S. has spent roughly 1/3 of Iran's entire GDP just to sustain the fight. And now another $200 billion is being requested. This could easily spiral to $500 billion. Meanwhile, U.S. debt, $39 trillion, headed to $40 trillion within months, probably by the summer. Debt to GDP, 124% and rising fast. At what point is this not strength, but strategic overextension? If your opponent can force you to spend hundreds of billions to contain them, who's really winning the long game? And here's 100% we're invading. Apparently, the U.S. has no Congress. A second Marine amphibious group is now heading to the Middle East. The USS Boxer, USS Comstock, and USS Portland, carrying the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit, just departed the West Coast. Here's Mearsheimer reveals Trump secretly allowed Iran to sell its oil to keep global prices under $100, but Israel intentionally bombed Iranian gas fields to ruin the plan, sending prices skyrocketing and destroying the U.S. economy. With allies like that, who needs enemies? Here's Hedseg. We're extending the department's reinstatement and return to service guidance by an additional year, allowing our warriors of conscience to return through April 1st, 2027. As Robert Barnes says, oops, we're sorry about that vaccine mandate. Will you come come back now and die for Israel instead? DD Politics bombshell. The Pentagon plagiarized Adelson's funded Israeli think tank to justify war on Iran. The White House official justification for launching the war on Iran, a March 2 document titled The Iranian Regime's Decades of Terrorism Against American Citizens, appears to have been lifted almost verbatim from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Side-by-side comparison shows the same historical events in the same order with nearly identical framing reworded just enough. What is FDD? Founded in April 2001, the EMET, Hebrew for Truth. Its original IRS filing stated its missions were to enhance Israel's image of North America after 9/11 was rebranded and broadened its stated mission to counter terrorism. It's funded by the most prominent pro-Israel billionaires in America. Bernard Marcus, Home Depot co-founder, Sheldon Adelson, casino billionaire Paul Singer, hedge fund billionaire and Broadfound family whiskey heirs Michael Steinhardt, Lynn Sosterman, and Leonard Abramson. All are prominent pro-Israel donors. In 2011 alone, it received over $20 billion. The UAE also wired $2.5 million through a cutout in 2018. Yeah, anyway, this is all linked up. Yeah. That's a couple things. It does look like it's exactly the same thing. Netanyahu. I'll just play it.
The Lessons of History, very brief, 100-page book, in which he said, well, history proves that, unfortunately and unhappily, Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan. Because if you are strong enough, ruthless enough, powerful enough, evil will overcome good. Aggression will overcome moderation. So you have no choice.
I can't take any much more. And you got Catholics that defend this guy. Here's what's his face again? Ben Swan.
You can see buildings near Tel Aviv that have been torn open by missile strikes, streets littered with debris, a residential neighborhood hit directly by Iranian missiles. 2 people were killed in that strike. This is part of the 60th wave of strikes against Israel. Multiple impact sites were reported across the country. Tel Aviv's central train station tonight is damaged and rail service has been disrupted. And yet, my question for you is, where have you seen any of this footage? Maybe just here, maybe online in a few scattered places. There's a reason for that. Because in Israel, during wartime, there is military censorship. The government requires journalists to submit certain reports for approval. In fact, reports show an average of more than 20 stories a day have been modified or retracted in recent years. Israel says this is to prevent Iran from using that information to improve its attacks. But is it really? And here's where the story gets even more complicated. Because what's happening inside of Israel right now is not just about what can't be reported. It's about what isn't being shown at all. See, one insider put it this way, quote, "We have a partial understanding of what is actually happening. That partial reality is being managed. The full reality is breaking through. Missiles are getting through. Infrastructure is being hit. Civilians are dying. American troops have been killed in this conflict. And here's the truth. This war that was presented as controlled and as calculated is now hitting home, literally. And when the narrative shifts in Washington, while the images may be controlled on the ground, it leaves one serious question. Are we actually watching what is happening or what we're being allowed to see?
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's just like, and both sides do that. You're only allowed to see. You're not going to see it all. You're just going to be allowed to see some of the things. There's bench one right there. I was like, where's my link? Ambrose Evans Prickard. This is an energy emergency. Entire countries may run out of oil. The optimistic view is that Trump will chicken out and leave the Gulf to put out the fire that he has ignited. No chance. He is not leaving like that. Here, Robert Burns. We're at the hide the coffin stage of the war. The U.S. has decided to make the funeral processions of soldiers killed in the war with Iran completely secret, with cameras strictly prohibited. Here's Trump. I think we won. He's like, we won the war in Iran. Are you tired of winning? Week 1, we won. Week 2, we're winning. Week 3, send help. Again, they're just sending out more troops. How can you say we won? People urged to work from home in global oil crises. And we already talked about that. Trump administration making heavy preparations for potential use of ground troops in Iran. This was today. So Trump, one side says, I think we won. But now we're thinking about heavy preparations for ground troops. The Board of Peace has a CEO for life, a private army, and no auditor. They signed it in Davos. Called it the Peace Board. It's a cooperation with 20,000 soldiers. Here are the 8 people running it. Trump, chairman for life, can veto any decision, remove any member state, dissolve the entire board, retains the power after leaving office, not as president, as a private darn citizen. Kushner, affinity partners, manages billions from Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, the same countries on the board. He manages their money and directs where $30 billion in reconstruction goes. Mark Rowan, Apollo Global, $785 billion UAUM. Valued Gaza's coastline at $50 billion, currently facing securities class action over Epstein ties. Apollo shares dropped 15%. Witkoff, Trump's real estate partner turned Middle East envoy, sold his stake to resolve conflicts. His son took over and kept dealing with the same Gulf investors. UAE bought $500 million in World Liberty Financial 4 days before inauguration. Tony Blair, the Iraq war architect, is now the Middle East peace broker. AJ Banja, World Bank president, made the bank a trustee. Destroyed decades of institutional neutrality. Rubio, his own State Department condemns the human rights records of the partner states he's working for. Robert Gabriel, deputy NSA commanding 20,000 troops. This isn't diplomacy. It's an occupation with a business plan. $1 billion membership fee. No independent audit. No inspector general. 26 member states and only 4 rated free by Freedom House. France, Germany, and UK all said no. U.S. says Cuba is prohibited from taking Russian oil as 2 tankers head to island. So again, that's why Scheinbaum in Mexico is saying, no, we'll give them some oil. U.S. prosecutors investigate Colombia's president for a one-time Trump foe. We talked kind of about this a couple months ago during the Venezuela thing. Hedsec invokes divine purpose to justify military might because he's a crazy Zionist nutjob Christian nationalist. Stay away from those. Whitey House gearing up to drop next Epstein distraction. And in weather, historic heat wave set March U.S. high. May set monthly records for over 140 cities from California to Missouri. And so here was, despite the record-smashing heat wave over the Southwest, global temperatures, which are a poor metric for climate anyway, are almost 0.3 Celsius lower than last year at this time. Wicked cold in Canada, offsetting U.S. warmth. And this is just funny because there's no way any guy with a working rational sense would do what this happened here. I first thought of it, you should have filleted the shark.
Hold. Babe, he's stuck again. I do believe that it happened for a reason. Like I was meant to be there in that moment.
What started as a simple walk on the beach quickly turned into a fight to save a life.
Suddenly this wave came and literally pulled him like sideways and he got stuck right in front of me.
A great white shark stranded. threshing in the surf. Rebecca Puckett wasting no time.
It was very difficult mentally and physically.
For hours, she worked to guide the massive animal through the sand and surf, doing everything she could to get it back to deeper water.
I was talking to the shark, telling him that he was going to make it, and then we loved him the whole time.
And somehow, the shark stayed calm, almost working with them until finally,
the first wave came in, and then the second wave came, and the shark took the wave. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it was so beautiful. And I just started hugging everyone and crying.
A powerful reminder in moments like this.
So many things happen. It's for a reason. And if you have the option to help, I believe you should help. We have to protect them because they are who keep the ocean balanced.
Yeah, they keep it balanced. I also would eat you in a heartbeat or bite you in a heartbeat. Yeah. Oh. Then bit their legs up. Yeah, I mean, I'm watching that going, that thing could just turn around while she's pushing it. There wasn't guys on left and right, or that thing would just bite. Just wait, let it die, cook it, make some shark fillets out of it, saute it good. There you go, you got dinner. No, there's plenty in the ocean. 1852, Uncle Tom's Cabin, published as a novel. 2020, American country music singer Kenny Rogers died at 81. 2015, Malcolm Frazier, dead at 84. 1999, as they floated past longitude 9 degrees, 27 minutes west above Mariana, Patrick Picard and Brian Jones became the first aviators to circumnavigate the globe nonstop by balloon. No, thank you very much. 1995, members of AUM Shirinko, is Japanese for Supreme Truth, the new religious movement, released nerve gas into a Tokyo subway, killing 12 people. 1987, AZT became the first drug to be approved by the U.S. FDA for the treatment of AIDS, which killed a lot of people afterwards. They always ask, how come Magic is still alive? Because he didn't take the drugs. Yeah, that's what he said. 1969, John Lennon married Yoko Ono in Gibraltar. 1957, American filmmaker Spike Lee was born. He ended up making him up with Mars later, if you know the Jordan commercials. 1948, Canadian-American ice hockey player Bobby Orr was born in Ontario, Canada. 1854, the meeting of the Whigs, anti-Nebraska Democrats on free soil in Ripon, Wisconsin, proposed the formation of what would become the Republican Party in these United States. 1854, which became the same Republican Party now at the 1848ers got involved in and took over. Hence why they're red. They were actually called the Red Republicans back then. 1828, there's the same group. Henrik Ibsen was born in Norway. 1815, the 100 days during which Napoleon, having ended his exile by escaping the island of Elba, began with Napoleon's arrival in Paris. 1770, German lyric poet Frederick Holden was born in Whittimer. 1727, Sir Isaac Newton, whose Principia was one of the most important single works in modern science, died in London. 43 BC, Roman poet Ovid was born. And a couple other people born. I remember Wednesday, we did Hump Day. John C. Calhoun's birthday was that. I don't know, you probably don't care about John C. Calhoun, but John C. Calhoun was amazing. We need more J.C. Calhouns in time, but he was born that day. And Grover Cleveland, it was probably one, if Brian McClanahan says, probably the best president we've ever had. He was also born on Wednesday. Anyway, God love you. Have a great rest of the weekend. See you on Monday for Clown Planet. What do we call it Monday? Black Pill Monday? Yeah, that's what. Anyway, have a great rest of the weekend. God love you. Thanks for hanging out. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. I got plenty of new videos coming out. I think the new Ripper one on Hell's coming out tomorrow. Check that out. God love you. Have a great rest of the night, and thank you again.